Yo, what's up? Welcome to the opening line. Corey and Benny coming at you on a Taco Tuesday. What's the deal, Benny? What's going on with you?
Not much, man. Was a pretty uneventful night last night. My two big bets were the Reds and the Diamondbacks. The Reds lost 7-6, so I came up a little short on that one. And the Diamondbacks won 8-6 and covered the over, so I won that one.
Because that number came down to 13.5, right?
13.5, so I got the over on that by a half. Luckily, I got in on it early in the day because it went up to 14 by game time. So people who had the game time over a 14, or even the under, actually, they both pushed. So getting in early in the day definitely has its advantages.
No, it really does, Benny. Remember those home run props we were talking about in that game yesterday?
Yeah, the Arizona one?
Yeah. Do you know the line on all of those moved?
It should have. When you told me those numbers, I was like, that's ridiculous. In a game with 14 runs expected, to have the whole heart of the order, the guys we talked about, like Walker and Peralta, all those guys being like plus 500, did not make any sense to me.
No way. They all got down to that plus 200 range. So, like you said, it's also – there's I don't know if did any one of those cats hit a home run?
You know, I didn't play them. And I tried to avoid that game in DFS because I just figured it was going to be so highly owned. So I don't even know off the top of my head, to be honest with you. I know Jake Lamb hit a home run, but I don't know if he was one of the guys we talked about.
Yeah. So that's cool. But anyway, so it was a decent night. Yankees, Reds, and then I had the the Astros, but that game got rained out. So that's, that sucked. You know what I'm saying? So other than that, pretty uneventful day. Dak Prescott is not acting in Dallas Cowboys for $40 million. That was a false report that was floated out there, more than likely by the organization. But he was offered $30 million. I don't know what kind of guarantees came with that, Benny.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling my brother-in-law last night, if I was Dak, I wouldn't even trip off no contract. I would wait till my franchise years. By the time Dak gets to his franchise years, it'll be a new CBA. He'd probably make $45 million a year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, the way the money's –
he's a quarterback. Nobody can touch him anyway.
The way the money has been working out where the salary cap keeps going up, it's kind of what happened in basketball, right? It was the reason everybody was taking short contracts a couple of years ago because when the new CBA came with the extra money in there, I mean, you have guys like, Enes Kanter making $50 million now, and it's just insane. Here's the thing, though, Corey. I hope to one day in my life be in a situation to turn down a $30 million a year contract like that. That just,
what the guarantees is. Can you guarantee the first 30? I'm good.
Guarantee me the first one, and I'd be fine. I'd be like, all right, I'll take the $1 million guarantee. We'll play for the other 29, whatever. I'll still be all right if that doesn't work out. So, more power to him. Hopefully, Dak gets his money. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Training camp winding down. Cowboys need to start getting – well, Dak is not going to hold out. Dak can play without a contract. Ezekiel Elliott as a running back, much different situation, you know what I'm saying?
Are you worried? Are you worried about the Zeke situation now? Because I've been seeing people starting to talk about, how we treat Melvin Gordon very differently than we're treating Zeke, which – again, I mean, I'm one of the people who does that. I clicked Melvin Gordon down and started drafting Austin Eckler almost right away. I haven't really done that to Zeke, though. I mean, for me, if I'm drafting 3 or 4 and Zeke happens to be on the board, I'm still taking Zeke.
Yeah.
If Melvin Gordon's on the board at 6 or 7, I'm not taking Melvin Gordon. So do you think people are wrong for doing that? Or,
No, Melvin Gordon played for the Spanos. Zeke played for Jerry Jones.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Jerry Jones is going to make sure Zeke is there because if not, the Cowboys are going to lose. And to him, that's not acceptable. So I agree with you.
There you go. You know what I'm saying? The Spanos, on the other hand, you've seen this before. You know what I'm saying? Keenan Allen, not Keenan Allen. Vincent Jackson has already missed 10 games dealing with this organization and stuff like that. They just don't pay people. They're a mom and pop joint. They moved the joint from San Diego to LA. The team is just this. It's a poorly run organization, and it's not right to the people of San Diego because that was their team, and they just up and took it from them like that. You know what I mean? But you got to run the organization better. We had the Fantasy Guru Elite, well, fantasyguru.com. We did a 14-team PPR mock last night, Benny. Me and you both were in it, so want to run through and go through some of that stuff. Also, we had the NBA schedule drop yesterday. We'll take a look at some of the early games, talk about some of the early lines because they're already out already. And, we'll have some fun with that. And we're getting so close to drafts and stuff like that kicking off. So, some of the bigger ones got the Canton this weekend for the Kings Classic. So, definitely we are in full fantasy football draft mode right now, and y'all looking forward to it. So, last night in the Fantasy Guru 14-team PPR mock, I had the 9th pick. And I'm like this, Benny. It's almost like I kind of feel like if I don't get one of those, it's probably 6 running backs I like in the first round. If I go wide receiver and I can't get Dalvin Cook in the second, this is not a bad year to go 0 RB.
There are a lot of guys in that like 4th to 7th round range that are going to be pretty relevant right now. I got sniped on Tevin Coleman right around there. He was at the top of my queue. Yeah, he was at the top of my queue right before there. There was a couple guys in that round. I mean, you look at the names of the guys that went there. Phillip Lindsay, James White, Jacobs, Montgomery. I took Mark Ingram in the 4th round. Tevin Coleman, Tariq Cohen, Kenyon Drake, Austin Eckler, Sony Michel. There's enough names that you can get by, to be honest with you. And the thing about 0 RB that people need to understand, you're not going to have the best running backs in the league by definition if you're taking 0 RBs in the first couple rounds.
That's the premise.
Yeah, what you're really hoping for is a combination of injuries and late round guys winding up having bigger roles than you want. And it happens almost every year. And that's why the 0 RB theory is something that has gained steam and has actually worked. Because if you're able to find the James Connors and Phillip Lindsay's of the draft like last year, Connor being a 6th, 7th, 8th round pick, Lindsay being a guy that most drafts probably didn't even get drafted. I mean, he was a guy that was picked up in waivers in a lot of leagues.
Yeah.
You can find those kind of guys to put together with the elite wide receiver group and tight end group that you went ahead and took in the first 4 or 5 rounds. Your team has a chance to win an overall championship because you're strong at every single position. So that's kind of the idea behind it. And like you said, there's a lot of guys this year and a lot of things that are up in the air that does make it a little more viable than it does in some other seasons.
No doubt. So let's get ready to run through this, go through this. Round 1, I came out, Benny. I took Odell Beckham. Everybody knows how I feel about him. But before we get to my pick, Travis Kelce goes 7th. Ezekiel Elliott goes 8th. So you're starting to see a little bit of trepidation on Zeke. Yep. Kelce is moving squarely into the middle of that first round now. I think people are seeing the advantage they have with Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and I've been talking about this since the beginning of the year. It's a position value kind of thing. You get guys like Pat Mahomes, guys like Travis Kelce are head and shoulders above the number 2 at their position. So having those guys on your team is going to give you an advantage over everybody else in the league most weeks going out there. Again, it's not going to be every week, but over the course of the season, more than 70% of the time, you're probably going to end up with the guy who has more points than your opponent, if not closer to 80 or 90% of the time with those 2 guys. So there is definitely a clear advantage going there. And again, I think part of it has to go with what you were saying, where you can still find decent running backs in round 4 through 7. You can still find good receivers in round 8 and 9. So you can afford to take a tight end or a quarterback in the early rounds without completely kind of blowing up the team that you want to try to build around them.
After I take Beckham, Lev Bell goes. Then we see Juju in the first round, 14-team league. Benny, you start Nick Chubb and James Conner.
Yep, talked about it yesterday, so I don't think it was a surprise to anybody who watched the show yesterday. Chubb without Duke Johnson gets moved up the board a little bit for me. I liked him. Basically came down to the exact discussion we had yesterday. It was Chubb, it was Connor, and it was Dalvin Cook were the 3 names that I had at the top of my board. And, I have Chubb number 1 after the Duke Johnson thing. I like Connor a little bit more than I like Cook, which may wind up coming back to me. And I know that's probably not people are worried about Connor's workload and about him staying healthy and all that stuff. But I have the same concerns about Cook staying healthy, which is why I prefer Connor. But I would have no problem with anybody who said, oh, you're dumb for taking Connor there. I would have taken Cook. to me, the two are very close. I have just kind of made a stand that Connor's my guy as opposed to Cook. But I wouldn't argue if anybody went Cook in that same spot either.
I agree with you 100%, Benny. You can go either way. That's kind of a toss-up right there. I may prefer Cook a little bit more, but kind of that offense is so – you know what the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is. You know what the Pittsburgh Steelers offense should be. So I can definitely get behind that.
Let me ask you a question, because here's something that I had a problem with in this draft yesterday. Both of those picks, I had the 13th pick. So there's 14 teams, so I had 13 and then 16 on the way back. The 17th pick overall was Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you're feeling about Todd Gurley, because the news coming out of Rams camp now is that Henderson is not taking to the offense very well. Basically, they run like a zone scheme in LA, and Henderson was always a guy that was more of like a quick hitter, just give him the ball, hit the hole, and just run over everybody in your way or run through the hole and just keep going when he was in Memphis. They're saying he's having trouble slowing down and setting up his blocks or allowing the blocking in front of him in the zone blocking scheme to kind of dictate to him which hole he should be going in. He's always been more of a downhill, one-cut go kind of guy, as opposed to somebody who's like a Le'Veon Bell is a good example, who has the patience to kind of, chop step behind his blocks and let things set up, and then the vision to kind of hit wherever the hole is. If Henderson is struggling with this, are you worried that maybe people are over-concerned about the lessened role that Gurley's going to have, and maybe Gurley should be going up into the first round again?
You know what's crazy about this situation? It's like nobody's really talking about this. There's a certain narrative on Todd Gurley that's out there. Todd Gurley is in every damn practice. Todd Gurley he's at every practice. You know what I'm saying? It's like this, that right now they're like, we're monitoring the knee. There's no problems with it right now. He's the same Todd Gurley. And people are passing on him. My thing is, I think the Rams in general go down this year as a team. I think you can expect less from the Rams. But I think the fact that he's in the second round now, Benny, it's like, okay, if he's in the second round, I'm willing to take him in the second round because that's where he's at. And I think that's where his value is. So I'm back. I don't want to say secretly because I share everything with the audience, but quiet is kept. Todd Gurley's at every goddamn practice, and people acting like Todd Gurley on the sideline and it's in a wheelchair.
So I'm going to tell you how this has actually worked out for me already this year. I have had at least 2 or 3 drafts where I had one of the top 4 picks.
Yeah.
I got a
top 4 running back and Gurley on the way back.
Top 4, and then Gurley in the second round on the way back at these were 12-teamers. So we're talking like pick.
Some money behind those leagues.
19, 20, 21, 22. That's the range where I've been getting Gurley on the way back right now. I mean, even in this draft yesterday, he was running back 9. Like Todd Gurley last year was pretty much head and shoulders before he got hurt, the best running back in the league.
He was consensus number 1, Benny.
That's what I'm saying. So to drop, to me, if I'm getting him at pick 20, I'm good with it. I didn't want to take him at pick 16, but honestly, I'm kind of thinking right now, maybe I would have rather have him than James Conner, on the way back right there. So it's interesting because I feel like everybody's down on Gurley right now.
Everybody is. It's a narrative out there that he's injured, that he's injured and banged up and beat up.
Mm-hmm.
Son hasn't missed the practice, so it's interesting. But trust me, I think it will be some hiccups throughout the course of the season, but not enough to he shouldn't be going in that back end of the second when you're talking about if you get one of those. If you start Kamara and Gurley, you could very well cook this year. Yep. With my second round pick, I took Mike Evans, so I start Odell Beckham, Mike Evans. Kerryon Johnson is a player who is moving up, Benny.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Kerryon guy. I don't know about the middle of the second for Kerryon.
Yeah, I mean, he was running back 12, but overall pick number 19 in this draft, or number 20 in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
I like Kerryon Johnson. To me, belongs in the third round.
Exactly, I agree.
The third round, and I'm talking he's in that mix with guys like Aaron Jones and I guess Damian Williams. You could still put in there as well.
He's in the mix with Joe Mixon.
See, I have Mixon a little higher than him, but yeah, I mean, that's basically Mixon has been dropping too. Mixon was a guy at the beginning of draft season. Now, again, the beginning of draft season, we're talking June, July, was sneaking into the back end of the first round. Now he's dropping towards the back end of the second round, which is where I like him a lot more. Like if you can get Mixon, again, you start with one of those top 4 running backs, and you get Mixon on the way back as your RB2. I like that. I think that's a really good spot for him, and that's the thing. Like, if you could start with one of those top 4 running backs and then grab like a Mixon or a Gurley on the way back, and then the beginning of the third round, go get like a Marlon Mack or a Kerryon Johnson. If you're going RB heavy and you start with those 3 running backs, that's a really strong stable of running backs you have there. And then you don't even have to worry about RB again until round 10 or 11 when you're looking at,
That's interesting, Benny. If I had one of those top 4 picks and was able to get one of those Mount Rushmore of fantasy running backs, I think I would go wide receiver on that 2-3 turn. You think it might be better to get you think it might be better to build an advantage at running back?
Well, that's the way I've been doing it, has been building an advantage at running back. But again, it also matters the league that you're playing in. Like the draft we had last night was a PPR draft. So wide receivers have a little more, upside. A lot of the drafts I've been doing now have been the best ball drafts over on draft.com that we were talking about with the big final prize and all that. That's a half PPR. It's basically FanDuel scoring system. It's a half PPR, 4 points for the quarterback, all that good stuff. So to me over there, running backs have a lot more value. The other thing too is I like the late round wide receivers that I can get. I mean, we've talked about a ton of them. Guys like, again, to go late round like Chris Conley and Deebo Samuels, but like even the guys in like the 8th or 9th round, the 7th, 8th round, I should say, like guys like Geronimo Allison, Kiki Kuti, D.D. Westbrook, who we've been getting around that range, Larry Fitzgerald's around that range. Even Sterling Shepard, who's a guy that I think I took him in this draft, and that's a guy that I want people to understand. Sterling Shepard is fine. Sterling Shepard is on pace to start week 1 of the season. People got all excited about him getting hurt in the preseason.
Like jammed his finger, and people act like his finger got amputated.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a jammed finger. It's happened to all of us. It sucks for like a week. It hurts. If you're trying to open a bottle or something, you might do it again, but for the most part, that's something that goes away in a week. It's not, like you said, it's not like he had his finger amputated, and it's his finger. It's not his legs. He's still able to run and do all his things. Yeah, fingers are important for wide receivers, but God gave you 10. If you only have 9, you can still catch a football. I mean, it's not that hard.
He'll be all right, you know what I'm saying? But I do like that Sterling Shepard call right there. And then, like, he gets a chance to be number 1 wide receiver.
And no Golden Tate for 4 weeks, because it looks like that it looks like even though he called the league and all that, it still looks like he's going to get that 4-game suspension and it's not going to get reduced.
It's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. T.Y. Hilton, a favorite of mine, Benny. I'm off him right now. I'm off him until Andrew Luck gets in. Andrew Luck reported yesterday that Andrew Luck's going to miss this week. Also, he won't practice this week. If Andrew Luck is not practicing come Monday, that puts him 3 weeks out. If he doesn't practice next week, that puts him 2 weeks out from the opener.
Yep.
This is basically the injury that Kevin Durant had. Now, obviously, different athletes and stuff like that, different things. I'm not worried about Luck, but I'm watching out the corner of my eyes, Benny.
We'll put it this way. If he doesn't play this week, this is week 2 of the preseason. Starters don't play week 4 of the preseason.
You're right.
So if he don't play this week, he's going to have a week of practice and maybe, what is he going to get? A quarter, half at most of week 3?
Yeah.
And then the next time we see him will be week 1 of the NFL season. So I'm a little concerned about it too. I'm not overly concerned to the point where I'm going to be like, screw it, the Colts are gonna lose. I'm going to go bet the under on them right now.
No.
We've seen Luck.
Yeah.
We've seen Luck come in and play pretty well, even with missing.
He knows the offense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's not. This isn't a new team. He's not a rookie. This isn't a new group that he's working with. Like, I think he'll be fine to be coming in there, but it is kind of concerning. I'm more concerned about it for Andrew Luck shares than I really am for like shares of like Ebron or Doyle or T.Y. Hilton. At least at the moment I am.
All right, no doubt. Moving right along, more interesting. Marlon Mack goes on that 2-3 turn. Antonio Brown slips to the third round. The first time I see him fall that far, I'm Antonio Brown to be fine. Here's the interesting one, Benny, and I'm seeing this more and more now. Mm-hmm. George Kittle, the second tight end off the board.
I don't think that's wrong at all. I have Kittle as the second tight end ranked this year too. Basically, the Eagles have already said that they're not going to give the volume they gave last year to Zach Ertz.
See, the thing about it is the Eagles can say that, but that's on Carson Wentz.
It is, but here's the thing that has me thinking that it might be true this year. Dallas Goedert has been showing out in camp and is really being a bigger piece of the offense. They're going with more two tight end sets even. And if that's going to be the case, again, I'm not saying that Zach Ertz is going to suck. I'm not saying Zach Ertz doesn't deserve to be a top 5 tight end. But if you're going to go and grab a tight end in the third round of a draft or the second round of a draft, I don't want a above average tight end. You need an elite tight end if you're going up there to get that. To me, Kittle has a better chance to be elite in that offense because think about it. They got a better quarterback there this year. They got a better running game there this year than they had last year. That offense is going to be better as a whole, so I could see him improving. I don't see how Ertz improves off of the season he had last year. And honestly, last year, Kittle had more yards. Kittle had more yards than Kelce last year. Kittle led tight ends in total yards last year. I think he was third in receptions behind Ertz and Kelce. And they were all behind Eric Ebron for touchdowns because Ebron just had an outlier touchdown year.
Touchdowns.
Yeah, that's not going to happen again. That was the upside, best case scenario kind of deal for him. So when you really look at it, I mean, it's not that crazy to think that Kittle is the next best tight end option behind Kelce. And especially if you're thinking Ertz is going to take a step back. Now, again, I'm not saying Ertz sucks. I'm not saying Ertz doesn't deserve to be drafted. I'm just saying if I'm using a third-round draft pick on a tight end, I would rather have Kittle than Ertz.
Yep, I would agree with you on that one. If I'm going in that range for my tight end, I would take Kittle too. Benny, did I bring you over to the dark side? I see in this mock draft yesterday, third round, QB1, Pat Mahomes. You've come to the dark side, Benny. You're willing to jump up there to get your quarterback a little bit earlier. Will you do it in a league that you put $500 entry fee? Would you take a quarter? Would you take Pat Mahomes in the third round?
So again, I'm going to go back to what I said about the Travis Kelce thing. There is one quarterback, in my opinion, and one tight end. As much as I just talked about Kittle and liking Kittle, there's one quarterback and one tight end that to me are head and shoulders above the rest of the field. So having those guys on your team gives you an advantage at that position over everybody you're going to play on a weekly basis. The only quarterback I would jump up to grab this high is Pat Mahomes. The only tight end I would jump up and grab in the first 2 rounds is Kelce. So after I got the 2 running backs, I started running back on the turn, and then I went with Pat Mahomes and my third running back in Mark Ingram. So the way I looked at it is my quarterback position set, my running back position is set for the season because you start 2 running backs and there's a flex that you could start. So I have a third guy to go in there. That allowed me at this point in the draft, knowing I was going to wait and take a tight end around round 10, that now allowed me from rounds 5 through round 9 to basically concentrate on getting my wide receivers and building my good wide receiver core to go along with the solid start I had with 2 very good running backs and knowing that I had an advantage with the number 1 overall quarterback there that could make up for the fact that I was going to be a little bit weaker at wide receiver. So the only guy I'm willing to take at the quarterback position before round 10 is Pat Mahomes, and he happened to be available there on the turn. And I had an inkling that Russell Clay might have taken him if I didn't because Clay was behind me and had the wraparound picks right behind me.
Yeah.
So that's why I figured I'll get him before Clay's 2 picks. And there were 3 running backs that I liked, figuring even if Clay went running back, I would have ended up with one of the 3 guys I liked.
He goes tight end.
Yeah, which I didn't get at all, but okay.
Yeah, it's a mock. And then you get your boy, I'm about to say Melvin Ingram. You get your boy Melvin.
Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Ingram in the 4th round to me is a very good pick.
I like that pick. I think Baltimore's going to run the football well. I think Mark Ingram will be a good fit right there. I have no problem with that pick. I take my first running back and David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears also in the 4th round.
Yeah, I like that. I want to throw out a public service announcement here too. My 5th round pick was Tariq Cohen. I did not want Tariq Cohen. I happened to be taking a piss when my 5th round pick came up, and by the time I came back and sat down, I was like, damn it, I have Tariq Cohen. And it was a mock, and it was like, amongst friends and stuff. So I wasn't going to be the guy that's like, yo, can we reset that all the way back? I was like, you know what, screw it. I'll just draft from here and whatever. But normally that would have been the spot where I started taking wide receiver, which is what I wanted. I put a couple running backs on my list for the 4th round pick, and I happened to get Mark Ingram, and I forgot to take those guys off the top of my pick. So when it came back around for my 5th, the only one that was still there at the top of my thing was Tariq Cohen. So instead of going and drafting the wide receivers that I wanted to start getting, I wound up with Tariq Cohen. With that being said, the reason why I said that is I like David Montgomery the most of all these running backs in Chicago. Yep. So I like the pick that you made because, to me, he's the guy that I want to own if I want a Chicago running back. And
I would agree with you on that one. After that, we see the regulars all go off the board. Galladay, Jacobs, who is starting to drop a little bit, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, Jimmy White, who's the great RB2. Getting into round 5, we see Evan Ingram, Austin Eckler in round 5. As high as I've seen him, this is a 14-team league, so it's a little variance right there. Miles Sanders also in the 5th. I take Tevin Coleman in the 5th. Hunter Henry goes in the 5th. Will Fuller. And then you get your boy. You like you just mentioned Tariq Cohen thing.
Yeah, I wanted to take. We had like Allen Robinson was on the top of my wide receiver queue right there was like Allen Robinson. I think Marvin Jones, Curtis Samuels, Geronimo Allison, our boy Corey Davis. Like those were the guys I had at the top. Kiki Kuti, Larry Fitzgerald. That was the top of my list. And like I said, I screwed up because I was taking a piss and I wound up with Tariq Cohen. But that is, if you look at this draft and you're like, why the hell did Benny take Tariq Cohen there? I did not want to do that. It just, it happened. Let's say that. It just happens.
It happens. You know what I'm saying? I want to talk about the Allen Robinson pick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm starting to get behind it, Benny. I think he's a forgotten man this year. Mm-hmm. And I think he can rack up over 100 targets in that Bears offense. Second year coming back from the ACL tear. We've seen him have big years before. I worry about Trubisky, but you can get him as like a flex in a lot of situations. Mm-hmm. And if you tell me I can flex Allen Robinson, number one wide receiver in Chicago, a team that should be playing deep into January, yeah, I'm with it.
Yeah, towards the end of last year. Right now. Yeah, towards the end of last season, he started having some bigger games where he was starting to get consistently 7 to 10 targets. Yep. And for me, that's what you want out of your wide receiver one. If you can get wide receiver ones, and I don't mean wide receiver one on my fantasy team. I mean like you're drafting a guy who's the wide receiver one on his football team and he's getting 7 to 10 targets. That's what I want. So when you look around that range, a lot of the other guys around that range aren't number one wide receivers. You know what I'm saying? Like you're looking at, again, we can go over the names. You could argue that Marvin Jones is the number one and 1A, whatever, but guys like Geronimo Allison, Sammy Watkins, I guess Corey Davis is the wide receiver one, to be honest with you. But these are the other guys, Kiki Kuti, Cortland Sutton, Larry Fitzgerald, Marcus Valdez-Scantling. Those are the names that went after Allen Robinson. And to me, Robinson is
better than those guys.
Head and shoulders above. And I think it's by a wide margin. Like,
I agree.
Head and shoulders above those guys. I think Robinson's low total, like his floor totals, are about what those guys are aspiring to, whereas his ceiling is much higher than the ceiling that any of those guys mentioned have.
94 targets last season, only 55 receptions. He went off in that playoff game, though.
Yeah.
I think he was like 10 for 113 in that playoff game. And you can start to see the wheels turning a little bit right there. I'm back in on Allen Robinson this year. I think last year I had a lot of Allen Robinson. I overdrafted him. This year I'll be happy to get him at a discount. You owe me Allen Robinson.
Again, 6th round. 6th round is good value for that. That's where I drafted him.
In a 14-team league at that.
Yeah.
In round 6, I took Duke Johnson, Benny.
Again, I like Duke Johnson more than I like Lamar Miller. We talked about it right there. To me, this guy has – I think his floor is safe where he's not going to hurt you. And I think his potential upside, if he takes over more of that role from Lamar Miller – is like a top 10 RB is his potential upside. Now, again, things would have to break perfect for that to happen, but there aren't many guys you're going to be drafting in the 6th or 7th round that have the potential to be a top 10 running back for the year, and I think Duke Johnson does.
Geronimo Allison also goes off the board in round 6, a couple spots ahead of Sammy Watkins. Here's what I find interesting about Allison, right? I'm an Allison guy. I had Allison last year before he got hurt. Got Allison a couple places this year. So he goes off the board in this draft at wide receiver 36. Last season, in that first month of the season, after he got hurt, he was wide receiver 30. I was under the impression that he was like wide receiver 15, not 30. If you take him before wide receiver 30, I think you might be buying risk.
I got to be honest, I felt like he went off the board a little earlier than I expected him to in this draft.
Okay.
He went off the board.
Wide receiver 40, 42. That's where I like him at.
Yeah, I mean, he was wide receiver, 35 here, I think? 36. Or 36. So he was wide receiver 36 here. Now, again, it's just tough for me because a lot of the drafts I do are 12 teams, and this is 14. So I'm trying to do the math in my head here. But 6th round, in the middle of the 6th round, he was the 9th pick. So you're talking 79th overall. He's been going more in an ADP of like 90 to 100.
Yeah.
So he went here.
Now to the point where it's becoming, okay, now you're taking on too much risk with the player.
Well, I don't know if I would say too much risk, but I don't think the reward is there. You know what I mean? Like when you're getting him at 90 or 100 ADP, I think the potential for upside is very good. And even his worst case scenario, he's not going to hurt you taking him as, again, I've been getting him in the 8th or 9th round in these drafts. He went in what would have been pick 79. So in a 12-teamer, you're talking in the 7th round here. At that point, I think he's fairly priced. I think you're not getting any upside, but you're not really taking a lot of risk, but there's no upside there. When you can get him in round 9, there's upside. When you can get him at the end of round 8, there's upside because if he finishes as a wide receiver 30, that should have been a guy that was off the board in the 6th round of a 12-teamer. You know what I mean?
No doubt. One thing that I would say also about this is would you rather have Allison or Sterling Shepard?
Oh, I have taken Allison over Sterling Shepard.
Yeah.
Because I just trust
Aaron Rodgers
way more than Eli Manning. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yep, I agree with you 100% on that one. I agree. I'll leave it at that. I agree. And I just hope for the best. D.D. Westbrook goes off the board to start round 7 as wide receiver 39. I think Westbrook can outperform wide receiver 39.
Yeah, I don't think that's bad. To be honest, that's the range that he's been going, though. Like I said the other day, you have Geronimo Allison, Kiki Kuti, Larry Fitzgerald, D.D. Westbrook are all going in the drafts that I'm in somewhere around like 90 to 110. Like that's like Dante Moncrief is like 110. That's like the end of that range. And those are the guys that are usually the first ones off the board. The first ones off the board, are usually Geronimo Allison and Larry Fitzgerald, surprisingly, have actually been going before D.D. Westbrook and Kiki Kuti. But that range right there, that like 90 to 100 ADP is where you're finding a lot of the guys that I kind of like this year to outperform where they're getting drafted.
No doubt. Moving right along, going through the rest of it, Jordan Howard continues to be a forgotten man. Nobody seems to really like Jordan Howard. Justice Hill starting to rise up draft boards. Ronald Jones also. I took Matt Ryan, quarterback 3. You know how much I love Matt Ryan. This right here, Luck falls to QB 5. So if I was to say, if you was to tell me Mahomes is QB 1, Watson's QB 2, I'd jump up and take Ryan as QB 3, Luck was QB 5, and you was to ask me who was the 4th quarterback, I would have said Aaron Rodgers or Baker Mayfield. It was actually Carson Wentz.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's interesting. Would you rank Carson Wentz as the 4th quarterback?
Nope.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's not me, Benny.
But I got to say, the guy who took him, our boy Russell Clay was the guy who took him. And I respect Russ's opinion a lot. So, Yeah, I might have to shoot him a text later and be like, what am I missing here? It might be a little bit of my, you know, me not being a big Carson Wentz fan. I mean, I'm kind of a Carson Wentz hater. To me, he still needs to prove things before I put him up there in the top echelon of quarterbacks. But I've been able to get Carson Wentz in a 12-teamer, 8th, 9th, 10th round.
Yeah, you really can. NFL, not put fantasy aside. NFL, starting the franchise. Would you rather have Dak Prescott or Carson Wentz?
How old's Dak? 25?
25-ish, in that range, something like that.
I got to be honest, I'm not a huge Dak Prescott fan either.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah, so I'd probably go Carson Wentz if I had to. But I don't really like Carson Wentz. It's not like I like – you're basically asking me two guys I don't really love.
He's 26. Yeah, 26.
Wentz is what, like 24? So, I mean, it's really not that big a deal.
I think Dak played all the way through school. Wentz is also 26. I think.
Right, yeah, it doesn't make a difference. They're the same age.
Yeah. Here's what I would say. The product on the field, I might like Carson Wentz better for that.
Mm-hmm.
In the locker room, I probably want Dak Prescott.
No Bible thumping for you?
No, it's more of who's a leader. I look at Dak Prescott as a leader. I don't know if Carson Wentz is a leader.
You know what? This is a good conversation because this is part of my problem with Carson Wentz. To me, I felt like the Eagles rallied around Nick Foles.
Yeah.
I mean, Big Dick Nick, like whatever. There's a reason why certain people are alphas. You know what I mean? Like Baker Mayfield's a great example. Like they showed Baker Mayfield when he was at Oklahoma. When Baker Mayfield walked into the workout room down at Oklahoma, there was an energy. He was high-fiving guys. He was messing around. He was a leader. He was an alpha. He was the kind of guy that you want to follow. It brings you back. Remember the movie The Program back in the day? You remember that scene before they cut it out? I don't know if you saw it at the beginning where the quarterback, the drunk, whatever his name is, Joe Kane, walks out, lays down in the middle of the street with the cars going around them, and then they took it out because all these stupid kids started doing it. But that, to me, that's the kind of guy I want leading my football team. That's an alpha. It's part of the reason why I hate Eli Manning. All shocks, no big deal back thing. Like, that's great if you're an offensive lineman. But if you play basketball and you're a point guard, if you play, football and you're a quarterback, if you play baseball and you're a starting pitcher or a catcher, you need to be an alpha. You need other guys to want to follow you if your team's going to win. You need to be the guy that tells everybody else, even in bad times, don't worry about it. We got this. I got this. We're going to come back. We're going to win this football game. I know we're down 6. There's 2 minutes left. We're going to march right down the field. We're going to put this ball in the end zone. We're going to win this football game, and we're going to tell everybody to go fuck themselves at the end. That's the kind of guy I want as a quarterback. I don't see Carson Wentz being that guy. Nick Foles is that kind of guy. Carson Wentz was not that kind of guy. So what you're saying with the Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz thing, there's definitely some smoke there. I definitely think that is a valid concern to have with Carson Wentz.
When the season started last year, first of all, the offense was not playing well. The Eagles got off to a poor start offensively last year. There was some conversations about the playbook, and he said specifically, those are the plays that Nick Foles likes to run. I don't want to run those plays. I didn't like that. Now, you can say, okay, that's just rumors. Story came out about it in Philadelphia Tribune. When he came for the OTAs and they asked him about that story, he said, I probably got to do better. And I was like, wow, he just admitted to it. So now you see the dude got a little ego thing, you know what I'm saying? So that's the only thing. And people talk about the Eagles and the Cowboys this year and how they're like not head and shoulders, but they seem to be two teams poised to make deep runs in the NFC. And you talk about who's the best player between the two teams combined, I think it's Ezekiel Elliott. Then you probably would say the next one was Carson Wentz. And I would agree with that. But, like, I don't know if Wentz is the guy I want to hang my hat on. Like, I think you're still out on Wentz.
This is my problem with Carson. This is why I haven't liked him, and I keep moving him down my draft board, and I don't really want to go get him. I think I have one share of Carson Wentz in the 30, 40, drafts I've already done here. I'm just not – I don't want to say he sucks because he doesn't, but I'm not convinced that he's as good as other people think he are. Other people are looking at small samples and extrapolating it out to him being this stud quarterback. I want to see him play a whole season and be a stud quarterback.
Stud quarterback, exactly.
Before I put him in that category.
Nick Foles is there to bail you out this year, buddy.
Like Baker Mayfield, even though that was a small sample last year, I put him in that stud quarterback category. I believe in Baker Mayfield. I don't believe in Carson Wentz yet.
Carson Wentz or Cam Newton?
Cam Newton.
Easy. Yeah.
Who you could get 2 rounds later.
Yeah. And I probably would take Cam Newton as a franchise, as an NFL quarterback also.
How old's Cam? Is he 30 yet? If he's still on the right side of 30, under 30, I'd probably rather have him than Carson Wentz.
He's just turning 30 years old.
I would rather have a 29-year-old Cam Newton right now than a 26-year-old Carson Wentz.
Moving right along. Mecole Hardman goes off the board in round 9 as wide receiver 53. I get it, but then I don't get it.
I don't get it. So explain to me why I should get it.
Because you have a piece of the Kansas City Chiefs offense.
But again, I mean, the water boy is available to be drafted too. Are we going to take him? You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand it's the Kansas City Chiefs, but you know, who's the tight end they had? Was it Demetrius Harris, the backup tight end they had?
No, that's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? You can't.
But they ran a lot of 2 tight end sets. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, where does the line go? To me, the line is the guys that are actually going to produce. To me, the line is Sammy Watkins.
Yeah.
Anybody, I mean, because obviously Tariq Hill's above the line and Kelsey's above the line and all the running backs.
In the back.
The line is, and Mahomes. The line is Sammy Watkins. After Sammy Watkins, you're basically hoping for an injury, no?
It makes sense, but I wouldn't do it in the 9th round, but I can see it. Him going before Golden Tate is crazy. Him going before Boykin is crazy, in my opinion also. Benny, you selected wide receiver 57, Devontae Parker. All right, so you I don't know what to say, Benny. What the fuck? Benny, what's up? I can't.
All right. So here's the deal, right?
I did the emoji.
went RB heavy early.
Yeah.
Already had my quarterback. So basically the weakness in my team is looking for wide receivers.
No doubt.
So what I'm looking for at this point is wide receivers that could have upside. Now, again, there's a big difference, in my opinion, to having Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback and having Ryan Fitzpatrick as your quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a guy who's going to take shots down the field.
True.
Devontae Parker's strength is making plays down the field. He's big, he's fast, he's athletic, he's got good hands. Every year this guy doesn't live up to the hype. 100% understand that. But like you said, what did I get him at? Wide receiver 50-something?
Yeah.
Yeah, wide receiver 57. Think about that, Corey. Wide receiver 57. Look at the other guys being drafted in that same range. You got N'Keal Harry, who probably isn't even going to be on the field right there. You have John Brown, who I don't really like that offense.
Trust John Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I don't trust him. I don't trust that offense. I don't trust that passing game at all. You know, should I have taken – I mean, Dante Pettis went before him, who I don't like. Emmanuel Sanders went before him, who I don't like. Michael Gallup's all right. I would have probably taken him. I liked your pick of Deshaun Jackson. He's a guy that has, put it this way. To me, Devontae Parker's upside is Deshaun Jackson's upside. He's the deep threat down the field, 3 or 4 passes a game, 70, 80 yards, and a touchdown,
I can deal with that. I can deal with D-Jax this year as a bench player. I don't want him nowhere near my starting lineup, though. That's my thing.
Mm-hmm. Parker is my 4th wide receiver here. I have Allen Robinson, Shepard, Tyrell Williams, and then Devontae Parker was my 4th.
Let me ask you about Tyrell Williams. What do you like about Tyrell Williams?
I'm not convinced that Antonio Brown is going to have a good year this year, which makes Tyrell Williams the number 1 wide receiver in Oakland, and a guy that you could get around the ADP 125, which is like 11th round.
And Tyrell Williams can play too. Never really been given the opportunity, but he's a good player. Josh Gordon starting to get drafted again. We seeing Rashard Higgins go off the board. Adam Humphries, wide receiver 61. I think Humphries can outperform wide receiver 61. To be perfectly honest with you, somebody else. Oh yeah. Humphries and Godwin, the Godwin thing, I'm warming up to it a little bit more now.
Where did he go in this draft? I don't remember him getting drafted. I mean, obviously he did, but I didn't see where he went.
Sure, it was too early for my liking. Wide receiver 21.
21. So we're talking 4th round here after DJ Moore, before Kenny Golladay. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett. I don't think it's crazy where he went, but again, my problem with Godwin, Corey, we talked about it.
Going to that level yet?
Godwin is like,
you're buying the speculation.
Godwin is the iPhone X. You're paying $1,000 just to have the new toy, but best case scenario, you kind of get your value out of it. But if he was a 6th, 7th round pick instead of a 4th round pick, I'd be fine with it. I just feel like there's no upside at taking him at wide receiver 21.
You're buying the risk.
The chance of bust is probably bigger than a chance of reward at that point.
Some of our late round picks, been these guys people heard us talk about a lot. I took Jalen Hurd, the other Niners wide receiver. You got our boy Debo. You got Chris Conley, who we spoke about yesterday. I got Tim Patrick, who was running with the ones yesterday. You know what I'm saying? So there you go right there.
That's it. That's interesting. Where'd you get him?
I took him in the 14th round, I believe. That's
nice, man. That's nice, deep, late round value. How do you feel about the Cardinals wide receivers this year?
If I fool with any one of them, it'd be Christian Kirk.
Well, to me, Christian Kirk's number one. Without a doubt, he's the guy that deserves to be in the top 5 or 6 rounds. I think Larry Fitzgerald around ADP 100, I don't mind either, because he could get a lot of work out of the slot. Definitely in a PPR setting like this, I like him more than in like a half PPR or obviously in a standard. The other guy I wanted to ask you about, though, is Andy Isabella and Keyshawn Johnson, I guess. We could talk about them. The two of them.
Interesting.
That's the guys that I'm really asking about, because I've seen them both getting pulled up boards, and I've seen them both of those guys keep getting drafted. And if both of those guys are getting drafted, that means most drafts are seeing 4 Arizona Cardinals wide receivers getting drafted, and I have a tough time with that.
They're buying into, they think they're going to run 200 plays a game, and it's going to be this offense that no defensive coordinator has ever seen. I'll be very careful buying into this Cardinals offense, because the O-line stinks. And that's where it starts at. You can't do any of this stuff you want to do if the O-line stinks. That's just the way I look at it, Benny. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm of the same mindset. I mean, because, listen, we both like David Johnson, right?
Yep.
So if you both like David Johnson, we both think Christian Kirk is a deserving top 5 or 6 round pick. And then I might be a little higher on Larry Fitzgerald than you are, but, pick 100, 9th, 10th round, 8th, 9th, 10th round. Larry Fitzgerald, I don't think is crazy in a PPR situation. I guess because they don't use the tight end a lot, that maybe that's why. But, dude, Aaron Rodgers throws the ball a lot and is a very good quarterback. And I have trouble taking Marquez Valdez-Scantling because I don't know if he can support 3 wide receivers. I really am having a tough time thinking that rookie Kyler Murray is going to be able to support 4 guys that are going to be fantasy relevant at the receiving position, on top of having a guy like David Johnson, who's a high catch running back. It just doesn't.
A lot of these Andy Isabellas and these dudes are going to be bench fodder. That's the way I would look at it. You know what I'm saying? But mock draft available in the fantasyguru.com draft guide for 2019. You can look at it and examine all of our picks and this 14-team PPR mock. Benny, let's get some baseball picks and get out of here.
Yeah, there's really only one that I put money on so far today. I like the A's at plus money. You're getting the Oakland A's at plus 105 today against the San Francisco Giants. Nice. 2 lefties on the mound. So the A's are throwing Brett Anderson. The Giants are throwing Madison Bumgarner, who's a pretty good pitcher. Bumgarner probably better than Anderson. But here's the thing, Corey. Oakland is number 2 in the league against left-handed pitching in terms of WRC+. They're like a 120-something, so well above average. San Francisco is like the 2nd worst team in the league, or the 3rd worst team in the league against left-handed pitching. So I just think the Oakland offense has a better chance to put up points here than the San Francisco one does. So at plus money on Oakland at plus 105, I think that's a pretty good bet today. Outside of that, there wasn't much I liked. I mean, I like the Yankees, but they're minus 300. I like the Dodgers. They're minus 2.
The Yankees too, Benny.
I like the Dodgers. They're minus 265 against the Marlins. I like the Cardinals against the Royals because Glenn Sparkman sucks. But even the Cardinals are minus 235. And then the Astros, who we talked about yesterday, Zach Greinke against Dylan Cease.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I like these teams, but this is what we talked about. When you get to the end of the season, there's no value in me taking a minus 260, a minus 300, a minus 400. So to me, the only value that I saw that I like to bet on today, A's plus 105, getting plus money on the A's is something I'd be willing to bet some of that money from yesterday on.
Big piece of chicken. I'm giving it to the Cincinnati Reds offense for coming through late in that game. For your boy, what you got, Benny?
Yeah, I'm actually going to give it to Chris Cuomo, all right? Because, listen, I'm Italian, all right? And I'll tell you what, and I said this, I was having this discussion with our boy Modica this morning here. You know, I'm a big fan of the Godfather movies. I'm sure everybody's seen them. If you call somebody Michael, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
Call somebody Sonny, it could be taken as a compliment or it could be taken as an insult depending on how you're using it. But if you call somebody Fredo, those are fighting words. So,
yeah.
you know, you're going to get knocked the hell out. So I have no problem. I would have done the exact same thing that Chris Cuomo did. If you're going to call me Fredo, those are fighting words. We're fighting.
All right, there you go right there. Shout out to Chris Cuomo. Shout out to his lovely family. All right, for my main man, Benny, is Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Opening line, we out.